Assalamualaikum. A very good afternoon and Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Maaf Zahir dan Batin. My name is Zalinda and I'm the communication lead here in Skymind. Before I go any further, allow me to introduce Skymind. Skymind is an AI ecosystem builder that enables companies and organizations to develop their own AI applications. Now, Skymind also provides clients with world-class support and access to Eclipse Deep Learning 4J and other open source tools, as well as global capital funding for promising AI innovation and talent development. Now, sounds a bit complicated, tapi senang cerita, we are an AI tech company with presence in Asia and Europe. Now, the title says 300 job opportunities in Skymind. Could you be the one that we are looking for? With me to talk about this today, we have Eduardo Gonzalez, who is the Vice President of Engineering here at Skymind. We also have Lim Xiaowei, VP of Engineering at Certify. And lastly, we have Muhammad Adam, a deep learning engineer from Skymind also. So, a few months ago, I'm sure everyone knows that the coronavirus crisis struck across the world. Organizations, large and small, are seeking solutions to understand where the new normal may be going and when we emerge from the coronavirus crisis. A number of companies are already developing strategic plans or organizing and employing artificial intelligence and machine learning to help their business. AI has positively impacted many industries like healthcare, financial services, retail, robotics, and as you know, forecasting. We are currently seeing many industries gravitate to AI or machine learning as the potential to realize meaningful changes. But when we talk about AI or machine learning, we forget one very important component, which is talent. Now, this is an emerging area where expertise is limited and requires organizations to compete for scarce top talent, which is something very difficult for a lot of companies to actually get. And so today we're going to talk about how do we get AI engineers or AI talents on board? Who are AI engineers and how do you become one? Now, without wasting any more time, I think I'd like to start with Eduardo, our Vice President of Engineering. Eduardo, would you like to share a little bit about your role in Skymind and how you became involved in deep learning?
Yeah, sure. My kind of journey to Skymind is quite long. I would say it kind of started in university. So as an undergrad, I was actually able to take a couple of electoral classes in NLP, right? So it gave me this kind of machine learning foundation that I unfortunately didn't get a chance to use after I graduated immediately, right? It kind of helped me much later in my career. After I graduated, I started working at a Japanese system integrator. I didn't really use AI in that job. I just did programming and, more kind of data science things until I helped found a R&D group inside of the company. And so in that R&D group, which was called the Social Systems Design Center around 2015, AI was core to pretty much every one of the goals in that in the R&D, right? So, and by 2015, unlike when I graduated back in like 2008, deep learning in particular has made incredible progress. So from that foundation that I had, I was able to bootstrap our research. And from that, we launched a couple of AI products. And after doing that, after launching those two products, I joined Skymind because I put those products into production at these very large companies, right, like Japanese banks and so on, and kind of ran into these issues which I felt were not necessary, right? There were like these issues that that we could have good solutions for, and Skymind was working at the core of that with DL4J and the various tools we were doing. And so so that's kind of how I came to be at Skymind. And from there, I've helped do AI at various customers and help create products within the company and do training and things like that. So it's been quite a wild ride, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Um, from the day you graduated, I mean, the days that you were studying and then graduated, and now you're in. Do you think there has been an evolution of AI, and has there been many changes around it?
That is a really good question because it's like a yes and no answer. So, when I graduated back, or not even that, it wasn't that far back, right? But like when machine learning was what you called AI, it was useful in some places. People were leveraging it for analytics, but it wasn't something that was kind of generally applicable to a lot of places. So, um, you know, in that sense, we've come a long way, right? Deep learning has created a whole new um, kind of ecosystem, I would say, for AI. Because it's just a lot more general, right? And before, in the machine learning age, I would say, um, every problem had its own specific algorithm. So, as an undergrad or a graduate student, you would learn all these different algorithms to apply to all these different problems. But now that deep learning has come along, a lot of problems map to just deep learning. So while there are many different ways you can create deep learning models, you can analyze video, you can analyze text, you can analyze images, you can analyze sound, all with a single fundamental algorithm. So that is quite that's quite a big change. That said, predicting the future, right, and analyzing that and making sure you have clean data, and knowing the difference between accuracy and precision, those things haven't changed at all. They're still the same as they were 50 or 60 years ago, when the term AI was coined, and they are just as applicable now.
I see. Interesting. All right, let's move to Xiaowei. Hi, Xiaowei. All right,
Hey.
so maybe you now can share a little bit about how you started to go into AI and how did you go into Skymind?
Right. I started like what Eduardo has been mentioned. I started with machine learning about 6 years ago. That was the thing that was the AI back then, where you have to learn all sorts of algorithms in machine learning to apply to several use cases, right? And then after that, I kind of just I have been really focusing on computer vision in my university and graduate school. That's because I was studying in Korea, and apart from the languages, images are really something that we can really see and relate. So I kind of start with machine learning with computer visions, and then yeah, as the screen showing now, from there onwards, I have been scoping a lot of machine learning projects back then, right? And until about 2014, these are several projects that I've been doing since the start of my graduate school. So back then, I was doing something like this, correcting gaze for the as in communications wise, and anomaly trajectory analysis. So these were in machine learning, right? And then that's when the third wave of AI started, and then we can do things in deep learning. So initially I evolved into this doing innovative projects in previous company, and kind of like felt that it's not enough. Hence I joined Skymind, which is like from BL4J, and we are really core in this AI.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the projects I did in the past. Those that I can show.
You are looking into the talent development in Skymind, right?
Mhm.
What's your opinion about the talent, the current AI talent landscape here in Malaysia, and what do you think is the potential for the AI job opportunities here in the country?
Yeah, interesting. So since I started quite early, essentially this is an emerging field that is still lacking a lot of talents, or people really understand the linkage between projects and the fundamental technologies. So not just Malaysia, right? A lot of places where we went, there's actually just not that much of people really understand how to utilize or deploy this type of AI technologies. So same with Malaysia, the young generation has a lot of talents. They just the education haven't really prepared them to work in such an AI projects or scoping projects from end to end. Still, so there's still a lot of improvements, but a lot of potentials there.
Okay, sounds good. And I think that's where the 300 opportunity is what we are talking about today. All right, let's move to Amar. Amar, if you can share a bit about your experience.
Okay, so first of all, Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Firstly, I would like to wish Selamat Hari Raya to everyone. I think it's still not too late, even though it's the fourth day already. Okay, so thank you for joining our webinar today. So back to the question. So as a young graduate, we should understand that the current job demand. What is the current job demand? And I think AI is a new branch and it's developing really quickly that we should all jump into starting from today. So I started to join this company actually quite recently, just at least a month, I think. My position here is a deep learning engineer. I did my bachelor's degree in mechatronics engineering, which is a combination of mechanical, electronics, and computer system. So upon graduation, I started as a mechatronics engineer in an AI company, but my role there is mainly focused on mechatronics engineering, specifically on hardware. So even though my colleague was working on AI projects at that time, but my focus at the time is only on hardware. But I was exposed to all the AI technologies, which at that time was not my main interest. Okay, anyway, then I decided to pursue my master's. So I wanted to focus more specifically into one area under mechatronics. So my interest at that time was in computer vision. I picked up skills through online courses and I joined the community of AI in Malaysia. So along the way, I've picked up many skills like this, which developed my interest in AI. So that is where I happened to know of this opportunity of this Skymind training. So I took the opportunity and I think the timing was right at that time. So I gave it a try. And so here I am.
Okay, so you did not do something that was AI background in university, and now you're doing AI, right? What made you so interested in AI? Is it really much easier than what you studied, or how is it?
Okay, so when I was doing mechatronics, I noticed that every time I do a project, I will look at the latest advancement. Everything will be related to AI. They would implement deep learning for, let's say, for obstacle avoidance. They would do uh, planning, path planning using AI. All this comes back to AI. So I know that AI has a lot of potential in future. So I decided to divert myself towards this area, and I picked up all the skills. I know that all these skills can be picked up through online courses. So I just push myself to pick up all these skills.
Great.
Yep.
Uh, awesome. All right. Eduardo, let's go back to you. Now, I think you're the eldest among all the three people who are actually AI engineers here in Skymind. So maybe you can tell me a bit more about how did how do you compare the job market for AI today versus when you first started your career?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is a very interesting question because today the job market is very challenging, I would say. Like that's kind of putting it, bluntly, I would say. But fortunately or unfortunately for me, I graduated in late 2008, right? And so with the Lehman shock and everything, the job market was also quite bad back then. So I would say, back then, the only places that were offering AI jobs in that market, because I kind of separate analytics jobs with AI jobs, right? So there were So even if you had an analytics background, that's kind of a nice to have. So not many companies were hiring then. But there were companies that still were hiring for AI. And back then it was pretty much, the search engines. You had Google, you had Microsoft, you had A9. And but the number of open positions for kind of machine learning practitioners was still very small, right? Unlike today, back then AI hadn't really proven itself, so it was a limited value to companies in general. Around 2014 and 2015, when deep learning really started to take off, I would say ad companies really started hiring AI people, and data science as a term really came up. Now, the interesting thing about those days was because it was ad tech, big data was kind of a necessary component of that. So you needed to have this kind of super skill set of being big data and AI, which was very difficult, and not very many people had the skills to apply for these jobs. Now these days, almost every company is investing in AI, right? Because of deep learning being so general, you can go to a bank or a retail place like Walmart and get a job as a data scientist in these companies. Now, the COVID situation has caused a lot of places to downsize their AI investments, even places with like really big investments like Uber and things like that. But I would say that because of the social distancing that's going to have to become the norm for this year, maybe next year, it's created a need for IT departments to reach customers, right? They didn't really have to worry about that so much before, right? They had the website, and then other than that, you had your employees that would meet face to face. But because of this, now they need to invest in things like chatbots or things like that, which need AI to interact with customers in a natural way. And so since less people are able to go to the office as well, automation is more important than ever. So right now, I'd say AI hasn't suffered as much as other kind of job areas have, because that increase in demand has kind of balanced things out.
Okay, right, nice. All right, Shirley. So we're talking about job opportunities. The title it says states that there are 300 job opportunities here in Skymind. Now, if what would you want people to know before they embark on a career in AI? What do they need to have?
All right. So essentially, there's a lot of roles in AI, right? Let's focus on what today the 300 opportunities mean. So it is basically focused on AI engineers, or you call data scientists, or deep learning engineers, right? So this type of roles requires a good understanding of various fields, right? Statistics, mathematics, and the essential way of how to build models for different type of use cases. And so I would say you have to have a fundamental understanding of everything, not just from theoreticals, but also when you're in the work field, you have to implement all those things that you know into real works, right? So there's a balance between knowing as much as possible, so know enough and implement those things on any types of projects that you can find, or if you can't, just create one problems in your life, or see any problem in your life, and really implement a solution to solve it. So through that process, you're gonna learn a lot from implementing and get your hands dirty, right?
Okay. Now, when I posted this webinar about the 300 job opportunities, there were some people who were skeptical and said, "Are you sure this is something genuine, or is this just fake news or whatever?" So, how do you? Is it really true that we're offering 300 jobs here in Skymind, and why do we need so many people?
All right. So that comes back to again, there's again, there are not a lot of people understand how does AI works end to end, but let's scope it down into one singular project, right? If we are building AI models for a particular company, we would need more than just a few people to actually execute that from end to end. So we kind of maybe need, let me expand this screen. Okay, never mind. So we need project managers to kind of like scope all these AI work scope requirements, hardware, softwares, right? And then we somewhat need AI engineers to build the models, and we need data annotation specialists. We can call them data annotators, right, to label the data and pass it to the AI engineers. And eventually, we would need AI systems engineers to integrate all these models to existing systems of those companies or infrastructures. So there's still another thing that a lot of people doesn't really understand is AI or AI system doesn't really just create itself out of nowhere, or we have to clean everything up to kind of put it in, right? It sits on top of your systems in your company or in your own computers as well. So we doesn't really need to revolutionize or reinvent the wheel, but instead having AI system engineers, for example, to kind of put it on top of your system. Then you can integrate it in your existing workflows.
Okay, so let's. Sorry, did I cut you off?
Yeah.
All right. So let's say, for example, I have a group of young graduates who are, who did IT in university and they are interested to join Skymind. Now, what's the next step that they can take, that they should take actually, in order to be part of the AI engineer here in Skymind? Shall we? Hmm. Shall we? Are you on the line? Is your mic muted?
Yes, I am unmuted. I'm speaking to myself. So you hear me fine, right?
Yep.
Yes,
All right.
we can hear you.
So let me start over again. Essentially, certified by Skymind is creating all these certified trainings in these three different fields. If you have been working or hearing about deep learning for a while, you're gonna hear three major scopes of it: computer vision, time series, and NLP. Right. While each of them has their hype, the way when we see the market or the use cases that we have been approached recently is mostly to computer vision. So we have designed this training and eventually a certification around here where you will become a certified AI engineers in computer visions. So in order how to join it, there's a poster at the end of these slides, which we're gonna share out these slides at the end um, of this webinar. So there is this poster where you can register at this link or inquiries at talent@skymind.my, and you will undergo 12 days of training. For now, we are doing it online, so because of the COVID, and then you can take a test and certify, and we'll hire you as a Skymind AI engineers.
All right. So these courses that you're talking about, is it open for the locals only, or is it open for both foreigners and locals?
We are not planning, like we are dreaming really big, but essentially we want to growing on the AI landscape from Malaysia. So I would say we'll focus on the AI landscape in Malaysia first. So for Malaysia talents, for Malaysia students, and then we are open to expanding out of Malaysia as well.
All right. So we're looking at our Malaysian talents first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Now let's move to Amar. Amar, there are a lot of
Yes.
people who are interested to do who are interested to actually do IT in university. I know there are a lot of people there, but do you think the Malaysian youth are ready to do AI in the going into AI industry?
Okay. So I believe that the youth nowadays, they all know about AI and they have heard the hype of AI. And to me, the hype is real. It's not something that it's just a buzzword. So having said that, Malaysia itself is AI is something new for Malaysia. So even though the youth are excited to join in, they should have a study on which area they can join in and how to join in. So okay, as I mentioned before, I personally joined AI, I started through online courses, which I think there are plenty out there. It could be free, it could be paid, and there's plenty of free online materials as well. And the community in Malaysia is also expanding. So there are plenty of rooms for the students to pick up these new skills apart from the university studies. Because the challenge with the university is that for them to introduce this new AI course, it might take some time for them to really study first whether these courses are is it mature enough to be taught to the students. So it might take some time. Whereas if you take online courses, it will be faster, and you get to choose which part of this AI that you want to embark in. It could be computer vision, it could be NLP, because it's quite a wide area. So what I can say is you should be more proactive because everything is online. You can find the materials everywhere. Yeah, so basically you have to be more proactive and looking for the opportunities and the materials.
Ini kalau senang nak cakap kata hendak seribu daya tak hendak seribu dalih lah kan.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, Eduardo, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Now we have Amar who has just joined in Skymind, right? And and there might be other interested young or youth who will be wanting to join Skymind also after listening to all the all what you all have said. So let's say, for example, there's a new person who's coming in like Amar. What are the things that they can look forward to in Skymind?
Yeah, sure. There's like so many projects in the pipeline. It's kind of hard to put like a simple list together. But I'll give it a shot. So, for example, short term, right? Like very, very soon we have projects starting with insurance companies and logistics companies. Like for the insurance companies, one of the things they want to do is create a fully digital service, right? So you can imagine if you have an insurance system and you're kind of implementing the claim process, right? You need AI to fully automate this entire thing. And they have an image of making it so that you can sign up for AI, or not AI, but insurance from your phone. And if something happens, you also handle it on your phone. You don't necessarily need a person to handle, the mundane stuff, but you get a person to handle the important things, right? So, they have a lot of things of AI that they want to do. For the logistics companies, they're looking at analyzing videos of warehouses, right, or distribution centers to make sure that boxes are handled with care, to help find them if they go missing. And so on and so forth. There are a lot of places around optimization of routes as well that we're working on them with, and we also have medicine, right? So recently, I've been doing a lot of work with medical image data and kind of helping doctors use this data and deep learning to assist in the diagnosis process, right? And we're able to use this in all over the body, right? Like it works from the brain to the lungs. Skeletons and all that stuff. We also have more in the future. We have automation of our agriculture, right? So farming robots is a really cool thing that we're embarking on, I would say. And those bots need to be able to look at crops, and these things are very kind of fuzzy things. I would say an interesting kind of thing about AI is farming is probably the last part that AI will fully automate, because it is something that's very general, right? Like humans have been doing it for a very, very long time. We're really, really good at it. And having robots do it is one of the biggest frontiers, I would say, in AI. And related to that is also self-driving, right? So these bots need to be able to drive around in an area where these plants might be growing in different ways, right? And then we'll have smart cities as well in the future, and those will need like kind of automated taxis and things like that. So all of those really science fiction-y things are actually on our roadmap for 2021 and beyond, right? So smart buildings, smart cities, and all these things. So you can expect from joining Skymind that you'll be working on really really on the forefront of AI technologies, and you'll be doing it here in Malaysia, which is a really interesting opportunity, I think.
Nice. Okay, I just want to ask a question.
Mhm.
I don't have any computer education or a computer background. Okay, I think my only computer skills is just playing around my laptop, doing Word document or PowerPoints, right? But if I want to go into AI, what are the opportunities? What are the odds? Are there openings for people like me to go and do it? I mean, going back to what Amar said, saying that you can go for online courses, but will there be an opportunity for people like me?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So while AI, right, while the data science process requires programming, right? So programming is part of that process. Programming, right? The job that I did when I graduated from school is fundamentally different from data science, right? There's a lot of interesting ways that it's different because while when you're doing programming, right, you're teaching the computer how to do the thing, but when you're doing AI, the machine is learning by itself, right? It's programming itself, and instead, all I have to do is kind of oversee it or instruct it. And it's interesting because like when just how in the real world, if you really want to learn something, you should teach it, right? Teaching computers to do various things, that's taught me a whole lot of stuff. So I think as you are starting with this, right? There's a natural progression that shows up in this data science field, which I think lends itself to people who aren't programmers today. So first, when you're teaching computers, you need to give them data, right? And so you need to be teaching the computers, here's the labels, this is what we want you to find. After that, you need to analyze that data and say, is it missing values? Are we teaching it the wrong things? Did we make a mistake, right? Those kind of analysis are kind of the next step. And you don't need to have a big programming background to understand how to do that, right? There are tools available that help you do these kind of analysis. From there, then you need to think about data engineering and kind of taking the data and kind of morphing it into something that AI can use. If you've used Excel, you've done this, right? Essentially, right? And you can start learning how to use different methods, right? Not just Excel, but like now a programming language like Python or Java to do that in a more scalable fashion. And then once you have those fundamentals down and you have the mathematics and the statistics background that Chao Wei will be teaching, now you're ready to do data science. And from there, it's more math than it is programming. But you need to have that programming background or you don't need to have the programming background. You can gain that programming background from going through these steps. So I would say, you don't need to have a programming background from step one. You can gain it as you go through this whole system.
So I have a possibility of becoming an AI engineer soon, perhaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Nice
lots of
to know.
interfaces for doing this that don't require writing scripts by hand.
All right, great. Okay, going back to Chia Wei, I think I did ask earlier just now about how a student has just graduated and then what can you offer? Now, are there any other companies or any other teaching schools that are also offering something similar to what Skymind is doing, or is that what we are doing is niche to what other schools are doing?
That's an interesting question. So essentially, there are some universities that have been approaching and private institutions that has been offering courses, right, in say data analytics, machine learning, and stuff. Yet there is not one particular degree course that it says you graduated with AI, right? So none of us here graduated with AI. I'm from electronics background, and Amma is from mechatronics. So we kind of just learn it from our actual interest in this and finding courses online and stuff to learn. And it's a very challenging journey because you wouldn't judge like, is this good, or is I don't understand this course from somewhere else in YouTube. So it's a very challenging phrases for us to find those that are good, stick to it, and go through the end. What Skymind is offering is something again from end to end. We kind of start with teaching the students fundamentals and then move on to getting the hands dirty, programming something in DL4J, right? So there are really interesting cases where students start to build face recognition at the end of the 12 days. And they can show that GitHub repo to somebody else who want to hire them as well. Yet, we're going to hire all those graduates that's certified, means they are passing the exams, right? So in terms of this end-to-end training program that's planned carefully and preparing them for workforce and then hire them, I would say Skymind is the first one to do this.
Can I just ask if, let's say, for example, they have graduated the CDLE programs or the training programs that you have put forth, Joey, right? But will this certification that we have given them will also enable them to go to another AI company? Will our certification be equally as good as what other people need?
Right. Essentially, if you're asking me, I'll give a short answer, yes. Yet,
Right.
they're gonna be very ready for the work field in one sense because it wasn't easy. It was putting them through its challenges of really programming it, learning accuracy, precision, the stuff of things. And then we are also on the side. We are working with huge companies to kind of like channel our certified graduates to their company to work. So they would have plenty of opportunities to get hired by other companies as well. And essentially, Skymind has been working in AI or deep learning started from 2014. So we are trusted AI companies that place in around the world. So when you see the name Skymind, you're gonna know that this is a trusted platform that can give me certified engineers, I would say.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions from viewers today, and I think the first one, most of you have already answered, but maybe you can give other aspect of the answers. What are the skills I need to be hired as an AI engineer? Do I need experience in machine learning, algorithm, computer vision? Yeah. So that's a question. Maybe Chiawe or Eduardo can, or maybe Amar can can answer this question.
I would say give it a shot, Amar. You're on the spotlight.
Amar, go ahead.
Okay, so my path was a bit different. So I'm from a mechatronics engineering. So if I were to give a skill set that is needed to be hired as an AI engineer, maybe first thing is programming is quite important because it's not really about programming. It's about logical thinking and how you want to solve problems. That's pretty important. And maybe the third one is persistence. So it's not easy to solve a problem. So you have to find your way out, look here and there. And it's not going to be laid out easily for you. You have to maybe combine few solutions here and there, then it works. And whatever works for you might not work for others. So to recap, maybe the first one is you need to have some programming, and lastly is persistence, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say, the certified course, it's great because, there are other platforms like Coursera or edX. And what I don't like about these platforms for learning how to do AI is a lot of the times the homework is essentially pressing Shift Enter over and over and over again, and then fixing a little bug here and there, right? So you have people who have these certificates saying that they know deep learning or they know machine learning, and they've never actually put it into production. They never created their own system. Where with us, you're doing a lot of that stuff, right? You're getting your hands dirty in the algorithms, and I think that's important because if our customers could have gone to GitHub, download some code and run it and that solved their problem, they would have done that already. But they can't because data is different, right? Data is dirty sometimes. Sometimes the models that you want don't do or aren't complicated enough to solve real business problems. And so you need to create your own AI code. You can't just copy it from somewhere, but you can always leverage the knowledge that exists, right, out in the public, right? So having having a foundation that you can build on, right, and having experience with maybe a computer vision demo is the best first step. And if I can see somebody who's gone that far, right, and I can be sure that they can, if I give them a new problem that doesn't fit that mold of I'm going to download some code from the internet and press run and see it working, right? If I can be confident that they are able to go beyond that, then I'll hire them because that's a really fundamental skill that they need.
I think there are many parents in this, in this webinar who wants to know, let's say, for example, if their children are interested, interested in doing AI, they've been watching too many Minority Reports and all those kind of movies, So AI is something that intrigues their children. So what are the courses or what should they do if they want to go to university? What are the courses they should take up? Shall perhaps you want to answer this, or maybe Eduardo?
I will start with briefly mentioning about those courses. So essentially, it works really well for people who are in computer science, software engineering, or electronics engineering, for those type of people, because of the basic fundamentals. As in, if I'm having 4 years of courses in university, it's actually those 2 years in the beginning which is really matters. Those are the times when you learn about the fundamentals in linear algebra, calculus, programming in C++, for example. So those are the things that can naturally fit into the prerequisites for AI, right? And then towards the 3rd year or the 4th year of your courses, depending on what degree you have, you're going to divert into a separate channel of, say, professional work, but essentially focus on the fundamentals of everything. And that's also one of the things that we are doing with universities as well. We are integrating our curriculum inside where we make students learn about AI since the very beginning, as in the right AI, right? Currently in the industry, there's a lot of hype about AI and people mistaken taking for automation as AI. And that's not the same. So we want to correct their knowledges since the very beginning. So study the fundamentals, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. There's an interesting number of physicists and mathematicians in this field, right? Where they never really took, they don't have a computer science degree, but the fundamentals that they learned in physics or statistics or physics is enough to allow them to feel, that power, right? To understand the power that math gives them to make this kind of programming work. And so that's, I would say, math is a really important part. And the more you can get your kids interested in math, not only will they understand, AI in general, but if the next algorithm comes out after deep learning, right, or we find some really good solutions that quantum computers can solve, that's also mathematics, and so that foundation will take them very, very far.
All right. This question goes to Eduardo. Okay. So the question that this person would like to know is, being eligible or being ready, when would you recommend someone to apply?
Yeah. So I would say the interesting thing is, you want to have that experience, right, of getting your hands dirty, right, deploying, training a model, right. If you have that level of experience, then you should definitely try applying, right. If you don't have that experience, then you should definitely look at Certify. Even if you have done a little bit, but you're not 100% sure, right? If you're not confident, the Certify training is essentially 12 days. And if you have done all these things, you are already way ahead of the pack, and you'll have a much easier time going through that. And the training that we give will, make sure that you're not missing any fundamentals. So I would say, if you feel that you could come up with a problem, like if you go to Kaggle, for example, and if you can rank yourself, within the top 100 or top 50 from scratch, then you're really good, right? And you're ready to apply. If you're not there yet, then we got you covered still, right? Because we have the Certify training.
Okay. Now, I'd like to ask Amar on this question. So the question is, do I need to be an expert in coding or programming to be an AI engineer?
Okay.
Amar,
Interesting. I mean, oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. It was a little laggy.
Yep. Okay. So to me, because I myself am not an expert in coding or programming, so I cannot say that people have to be an expert, but you have to be at least experienced, or you have to work on a project like what Eduardo mentioned. It's important for them to have a hands-on experience to really do programming. It's not simply just like copy and paste and then you run. That won't work. That would only help you for your final year project, but it won't make you survive for the industry. You have to really make your hands dirty. Try to work on a project. It could be your final year project. It could be your side project. It could be your freelance project. Try to work on something. Then that is more valuable than just being expert in programming. Yeah.
okay. Now this question goes to Chiawe. The question is, what kind of tests or assessment will Skymind conduct? Is it programming related?
All right. So essentially, we are hiring, especially for these 300 opportunities, is for AI engineers, right? So as an engineer, we have to solve problems and create values for our companies through our programming skills and whatever. So there will be tests on various parts. One is about fundamentals programming in Java, right? Because we have this deep learning framework in DL4J, right? And then we have part of the test which is in the AI modeling. For example, how do I build a multi-layer network, for example. And then there was some on statistic backgrounds, which are those important things. I wouldn't say know everything, but all those base theorem, those things that's really important for you to understand probability or even precision, accuracy, for example. So as an engineers, they have to kind of like program a little bit and do some AI modeling, but it will lead to a really good results, I would say. As in getting your hands dirty and know how to solve any problems, or at least know how to find out solutions for the problems that has been thrown to you.
All right. I think we are already running a little late, but I'm going to take one last question. I think Eduardo, I would like you to answer this question if possible. How do we advise the education institution to bridge the gap between the education institution and the industry?
That is a good question. So the interesting thing that I would say about kind of what American universities, for example, have been doing recently is requiring internships. So they have this idea of a capstone experience at a company, and it's not only just the capstone experience, but having a university or a school, find these companies that are willing to provide the capstone internships to the students, right? That process will help the faculty fine tune the curriculum to get them ready, right? So if you can, if you can get the education industry, right, to get on board with, let's try to find the middle ground between industry and the education, right? Or if we're going to do this capstone experience, perhaps put on the table getting one of their employees to teach a bootstrapping or kind of a crash course on many things. I think would be a really great idea. I really feel a lot of education is missing software engineering, for example, right? While computer science is taught very well in schools, a lot of people when they go into computer science or get programming jobs, they're missing the fundamentals of software engineering and those good practices. Data science, on the other hand, is interesting in that I think university and industry are kind of aligned when it comes to rigor in doing deep data science and evaluating it. But what is kind of missing is getting that next step of, here's this model that we trained, this is how accurate it is, and then presenting that report to the CEO. That one is kind of really good. But there's the next step of, now let's put this into a production system and have it actually make money for the company, right? Increase our bottom line. That part is what I think is missing from a lot of universities today and in the data science curriculum. And so having these kind of internships where the goal, is let's do this would be good. Some of the most innovative companies, they have policies in place where the new hire pushes code to production in 1 week, within the first week or the first day that they enter, right? Finding companies where that is possible in an AI sense is something that we're interested in doing, right? We're interested in helping those companies be able to do that. And we're interested in helping schools add that step into their curriculum.
I think we have time to take on another 2 questions, all right? So the next question is, how will AI benefit the electrical and electronic field? What are the expected challenges for those in this field? And are there any opportunities for me, which is the person, to have an AI application or system that will impact my job? Someone from the panel like to try and answer?
I think and it's interesting because in electronics, right, and AI is one of the oldest applications of these things, right? So, for example, all of our CPUs come with things called branch predictors. Intel's branch predictor, and I'm pretty sure AMD's branch predictor are based off of neural networks. That's the algorithm that they're using, and it is super secret because that is super secret sauce and very critical to the performance of those CPUs. But also laying out of PCBs or ICs as well is one of the first kind of applications of it's a combination. The algorithm to do that in the optimal way would take way too much time, and so using heuristics or AI systems to optimize that or find probably better solutions to that is becoming more important. Now, not only that, but I would say that now these days, every chip needs to have AI capabilities, right? It needs to be able to do matrix multiplication very quickly if it wants to be a success in the market, right? So like the iPhone is able to, these days, are able to do 5 teraops of deep learning inference, right? So, being, having the knowledge of the basics of this stuff will be really important, I think, to the electronics field, either by implementing it yourself, accelerating these things more than they are even today, and there's still a lot of room for that, or just understanding that we need to have this type of capability in our systems to to have a real market opportunity.
Shall we? Oh, okay. I think we have a technical glitch. Shall we, do you have anything to add to what Eduardo said earlier on about the electrical and electronic field?
Right. That's because I'm undergraduate in that area as well. Essentially, I wouldn't say I can't really pinpoint like what problem to solve out of the blue. Yet, in any field that you are in, try to look at the problems surrounding you, right? There's this another areas other than computer visions, which is time series analysis that let you predict something in the future. And I guess in electronics field, when you have all the sensor data, you can predict what will happen to the payload, to the load, and whether you need to maybe shut down the systems or moving the load to another system, for example. So there are all these sensor data from yesterday, from last year, from 10 years ago, which you can predict a patterns in them and benefit the future, right? And in a lot of businesses, they are really like, for example, edge devices, they are collecting all these sensor data and making really useful output from analyzing them with deep learning. So yeah, part of that, and any other problems that you can find, if there is a patterns, it can be solved by deep learning or AI, right? So pay attention to those in the surroundings and try to apply whatever existing to the problems.
All right. Okay, one last question before we end our webinar today. I think this is a very short answer. Is there any age limitation for these AI job opportunities? Shall we?
I'll start first. There's not really a limitations of ages. The thing is, we do see younger trends are being interested and working on this, but there's no limitations as long as, for example, as long as you can pass the certifications, you are all gonna be hired.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hang on. All right. Okay. So I guess that's the end of it. And I'd like to thank all the speakers, Eduardo, Chiawe, and also Amar, for joining us this evening for this webinar. Thank you very much. And then, okay, this is not a hoax. There are 300 job positions available in Skymind to those who are interested. All you need to do is just remember what Chiawe said. Or if you need further information about this, you can always go to www.skymind.global for more information about who we are and what are the courses that we offer. And you can also follow us on Skymind Global Facebook page. Now, if you need any latest news or any updates about us. So for that, and thank you very much everyone for listening in, and Selamat Hari Raya, maaf zahir batin again. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.